Hello, everybody. This is your host, Vic, on the mic for the Movie Publisher Podcast today. I hope you all are doing well today. I'm having a peaceful morning as well. I just took my dog for a walk in the morning as I'm recording this, and I feel pretty good about it. And I also had some earworms. Let me try again. Earworms for a song recently, and it's really getting to me. But yeah, it's even like playing in my head as I'm talking in this mic right here. Anyway, what are we going to be covering today? Well, I got 4 topics right over here. We're going to be discussing about a Minecraft movie trailer, which left a lot of bad taste in the mouth for a lot of people out there, including I, who doesn't really care much about Minecraft. We're going to be also be discussing Spider-Man 4, the upcoming scramble of news for, who's going to be directing and what direction is it going to go with director Daniel Dustin Cretton. I believe that I said his name right. Flub me sideways if I didn't. Daniel Dustin Cretton. There we go. Or no. Destin Daniel Cretton. There we go. Oh gosh. I had to reread that particular name 3 times, and I read the 2 D's for the first 2 parts of the name. Anyway, yeah, I screwed up on that one. We're also going to be covering the new trailers for Wallace and Gromit, the new Netflix film that they have coming out, as well as Venom: The Last Dance, which just released a trailer. On Thursday, and I'm very impressed and pretty excited, but scared to see what might happen for the next adventures and final adventures possibly for Eddie Brock and Venom. Let's see what happens there. But without further ado, let's get cracking to a Minecraft movie. When this movie was first announced to be made into a live action film, I didn't think it was much of a great idea, to be honest. I think it was actually a horrible idea because how do you even interpret such an IP that's specific for video games, as specifically graphic for this sort of gameplay? How do you translate that into live action while also putting a story in there and having top stars in there doing the best they can so that they can make it believable, they can help make it fun, and make it enjoyable for all those youngsters out there and Minecraft alumni? That's the only audience I can imagine they're appealing for. For example, some stuff may work in a book, but some stuff may not work in a movie. A movie can be more limited than the book has to offer. Example, A Wrinkle in Time. The book was so imaginative that, it really proved to be such. When you try to translate it to the live action movie and you got something that's more solidified, but it's like CGI heavy, a lot of people were complaining, and I can't blame you there. I definitely agree with you. And there's like elements of the book that left people like, oh, so that's how they're doing it? Okay. I thought it would be more expansive when we're seeing it visually instead of imagining it in our minds with a book. And that's kind of what held like the movie back, because you can only do so much. Like, how do you interpret something imaginative into there, because it's not really an easy thing to do. That's one advantage that books have against movies there. Not that they're more entertaining than movies, but it's something special for book readers. As for movies, you have something special for them as well. So how do you put a video game that has like very limited graphics but very expansive and rich experiences that players like to go from here to here and take down this monster and that thing, and the shapes of the sheep? And how do you translate it to live action? The Creeper poster, it's actually interesting. You see the little details, but I was expecting a lot more. Maybe there's a Minecraft. I don't know. I was expecting like a Minecraft network sort of thing at least, or like an alternate world that some folks accidentally go into. Well, that's basically it. But something less realistic, and I wanted it to be more of like the take of Goosebumps. If you guys have seen that one, with also Jack Black as one of the starring uh stars in there, while also making good use of the resources it was given for the movie and making it a pretty enjoyable movie, to be honest. I kind of want to see that again, but I don't really have an interest to. But if it comes around, maybe I will watch it. But anyway, with how they reuse the resources from the Minecraft games, from the various ones that you see, like for skins and for the places, the animals, the characters, story modes, hell, even a Netflix sort of iteration of it. It left a lot to be desired, and my set of expectations, if I were to be forced into watching that movie, is already pretty dang low. So how am I gonna try enjoying this movie? I don't know. Probably watch it as a bad movie and just sipping every time. It just makes me groan. And this one doesn't do it for me. Sip. I drink water, by the way. I'm not talking about alcohol. Or, trying to see how they're trying their best to make it work, but it seems to flop, and pretending to care. I don't know. How would you guys try to enjoy this movie in a very different way than what was intended? Like it's a Minecraft movie. It's everything you could want in a live action Minecraft. That's also the thing. It's more focused on bringing something into live action and being mesmerized by it, but that's all there is to it, when it comes to the pitch. And what more is there to it? Like, it's basically mostly non-story. You're just playing the game. You're just putting stuff together, and even if you did such, you would expect the story to be animated or something instead of live action CGI fest. They can certainly try their best, but it's really not swaying anybody. I'm just wondering, is there any optimistic folks out there who really think that this movie can work in some sort of way? I wouldn't say it's like the best of the best. I wouldn't even say it would reach B material, but it would be like a C material that's very dang enjoyable. Might even grow its own cult classic over the years. It'll be like similar to The Room with Tommy Wiseau, star, producer, director, writer. It's not that he's embracing, all this weird criticism of such for his movie. It's just that he can't outrun it. I feel like that might share the same fate with a Minecraft movie. And the title is kind of like, it feels uninspired. Like, a Minecraft movie is like just I was like, we might have more. There might be reboots. And that's just all there is to it. If they make enough money, of course. I don't even know if it's going to make a lot of money. As much as people dislike it, it could have, enough money to like make a second one, or make its own digital series on a streaming platform. And I'm so not going to give my vote of money on that one. And that makes me have like a bit of mixed emotions, because it's not near coming to like blowing a gasket about something and such, but I still feel let down. I'm pretty optimistic about what a Minecraft movie should be, but I got no ideas. It was like, you ask people in the room, like, do you guys know how to do it? And most of them will shake their heads. Most of them will stay silent, maybe even both, all of them. But I can also imagine that one scenario, there'll be like one guy who finally raised his hand. He has a genius idea. Like, oh, I know how to make this movie. It's like, well, too late. Where are we going with this method anyway? Oh, that poor guy. If he exists out there, maybe you could try again on Netflix. They have better potential on that one there. Or maybe do Tubi. I don't know. But anyway, I suppose we've already made our case settled for a Minecraft movie. But I really want to hear what you guys think. Do you think this one's gonna, or rather, I was gonna say, do you think this one's gonna tank or is it gonna succeed in some way? I think it's gonna tank. So I'm gonna make this more interesting. How badly do you think it's gonna tank? We can even do some jokes or like, it's gonna tank so hard. How hard will it tank? It's gonna tank so hard. Hank Hill will have a hard time selling that propane. I don't know. I assume they're in tanks. But anyway, what do you guys think? Any support for a Minecraft movie out there? Anybody? That one lonely soul out there? They could use your help. Speaking of fizzling hope, let's just talk about the updated news for Spider-Man 4, directed by Dustin Daniel Cretton. No, dang it. Daniel Dustin Cretton. No, Dustin Daniel Cretton. I am very sorry. Oh gosh. Dustin Daniel Cretton is in talks to direct Spider-Man 4 for mostly what is Sony's movie instead of a Marvel Studios movie, despite them collaborating together on this one. Because, you got to, after having a billion-dollar sort of success with Spider-Man No Way Home. But the Sony, of course, it's a great win for Sony and Marvel on that one, mostly Sony because, the money would belong to them. They're just so obsessed with multiverse stuff, like universe. Madam Web was like, oh, we got a universe where this and that happens. And, Spider-Man, like, across the Spider-Verse, beyond the Spider-Verse, into the Spider-Verse. You got all that going on. And they can't seem to stop themselves. And they try to build their own universe with The Amazing Spider-Man. They had, like, The Amazing Spider-Man 2. Then it was going to spin off to The Sinister Six, then Spider-Man 3, then Venom Carnage, the iteration that takes place in that setting. Instead, we got like a different formed project by itself of Venom. And they even try to make their own universe of that one. And it's starting to get a little ridiculous, and they're moving on with Morbius. Like, you see, they're in the same universe. And like, why do we care? Why do we care, Sony? And not everything has to be about a universe. And it's like Kylo Ren meme where he's like, more. And us, the audience, are the ones who really care, really see what's going on. We're like the General Hux is like, that's enough. That's enough. Sorry, I kind of lost it there. But, it sucks that they won because I really like Kevin Feige's idea. I had that sort of idea along with Kevin Feige and along with a lot of other people out there where it'd be more fitting if it was more of a street level sort of thing, especially at the end of Spider-Man No Way Home. With all these multiverse shenanigans going on, Spider-Man is finally his own thing. It's basic, and they did mention, I can't remember where I heard this one, but it's basically Tom Holland Spider-Man's unique origin story in a third movie. The third out of 3 movies, and you finally got the Spider-Man, more home to the Spider-Man that we all knew and love. Where he friendly neighborhood Spider-Man with not much of the Avengers, although it's a shared universe he's in. He's standing more by himself. He's all alone now, and it makes a lot of sense. A very bittersweet but perfect ending for all this shenanigans stuff, and making use of that Sony Marvel deal. And we could do a lot more with that with Daredevil. And they said they might do like a Civil War sort of thing with Spider-Man, Daredevil, Punisher, Jessica Jones, or Iron Fist, or Miss Marvel. I don't know what more, but I guess those plans might not even have a consideration after all, because Sony won the bouts of them butting heads with each other with Marvel. so that they can do another multiverse sort of thing. Why? Just like, don't you, what more do you need to have that satisfaction? When does it stop, Sony? I like, hey, we all have interest in like the multiverse stuff, but there's only so much of it you can do, and many stupid rules that you have to follow where it becomes incoherent and you start to, lose your way, and you keep trying to come back for like more and something different, but you're just basically losing yourselves. Well, let's not get carried away. Spider-Verse, Miles Morales movies, animated, they're pretty damn good. Really damn good. I was gonna say really and then very. I guess they accidentally formed into each other. Anyway, Spider-Man, No Way Home, whatever folks may think of it, or it's super flawed, but pretty dang good. I think it's like one of the best Spider-Man movies out there. Not just because we have returning characters from other franchises of Spider-Man together, and it was such a sight to behold, and it was pretty dang great, and they made great use of that as well. But then you also have, when you have the super highs at Sony, you can't go without the super lows. Madam Web, Morbius, Kraven the Hunter. At first I was pretty optimistic, like all the other ones, Madam Web and Venom. I think the Venom movies are they're I'd say they're like B- level, but I have a lot of fun with them, and I get jiggy with it. But for Kraven, I think it's gonna be another one of those super downs, and I don't want to say that about it because it's a very interesting concept, but they're just they just don't. Can you please do your homework? Please. Figure out what the people are really saying. Find out how these characters are being perceived as, written as. Just do your homework. Then you could go out. But then again, money is business. I get it. You got to have a draw. And at the same time, you're appealing to the sort of specific audience that are willing to go to see these movies, but they're not putting much of an effort into them. But even if they do, I almost made that point there, because there it is, the Venom movies. Venom movies have made a lot of money, so what do I know? Maybe Kraven might join that club too. Sorry to go off on that tangent. Let's talk more about Spider-Man 4. So, I gotta look up the name again. Oh, God, I hate myself for this. Dustin Daniel Cretton is in talks to direct Spider-Man 4 after he left the project of Avengers 5, or which was called the King Dynasty, but they're going in a different direction, and now it's being helmed by the Russo brothers for Avengers 5 and Avengers 6, was now called Doomsday and still called Secret Wars, the sixth one. I'm very curious as to see how he would do an Avengers movie, because I think he did a pretty dang good job with Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, and it'd be pretty cool to see him do a sequel on that one, because there's of course, like, there's something about the director that translate to that, not just because it's for it helps shine the way for those impressionable people out there of Asian culture, but it doesn't just limit it to there. It reaches out to like a lot of people, whatever demographic it may be, for comic book people or action people, or all sorts of different audiences. So that's what I think is pretty impressive about Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. And there's times I forget it's even made by Marvel. Like when you see that Marvel Studios logo before and after the movie, or like the first few seconds of the movie and last few seconds of the movie, it says Marvel Studios, is like, oh yeah, I forgot that, because it's in the MCU, but it's very surreal. Let alone even think they would do a Shang-Chi movie. I remember seeing like those haha reactions, on Facebook when the movie was announced, and you see like comic book panels of Shang-Chi, and I think that was pretty interesting. It was like, it may be hilarious, but like, hey, it could work. And I personally think it worked. I really liked the movie. Can't say I love it, but I really liked it though. It's pretty cool. But since now it's a multiverse movie, and you got Destin Daniel Cretton in there, I wonder what the results might be on this one, since we're not getting the street level ones. But it is rumored that Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire are expected to return. That's what Sony wants, I'm most likely. I mean, the first time around is pretty dang good and very special. Why ruin that? I mean, I was expecting them to return or even make a cameo. They can walk away from this one if they want to, because it's kind of much to ask for uh alumni Marvel actors to come back to reprise their roles from long ago, especially when you got the upcoming Avengers Secret Wars movie, where you're dealing with many different realities. And we saw that through if you've been living under a rock for Deadpool, Wolverine, you got certain stars in there. And you got Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man, you got Hugh Jackman's Wolverine, Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man, and I really would like to see Nick Cage's Ghost Rider. I'd like to see Marvel Studios' interpretation of that, because New Line Cinema has its fair share on that one. Sadly, it didn't succeed, but I would really like to see what they could do with it. I also like the Robbie Reyes Ghost Rider they did with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I think that would be pretty cool to have that one in there and have him interact with Ghost Rider for Avengers Secret Wars. But I'm getting off topic here. And that part might not happen, because you still need development time for Robbie Reyes' Ghost Rider to click with the other characters, but we might not have that opportunity. Anyway, with the tease of the mid-credits scene from Spider-Man No Way Home, you're expecting the black suit to be used. I mean, there's a lot of post-credit or after-credit scenes or post-credit scenes that have yet to be developed or used in some sort of way, whether upcoming projects have been canned, delayed, or been in development hell for quite some time now, and they don't know what to do with it. Like, the Venom symbiote is expected to be used on this one. And of course, Sony's going to glorify themselves using such property. But this is Marvel Studios' real good turn to how they would use the symbiote for the MCU version of Peter Parker. But the symbiote attaching itself to Peter Parker to be used in very convenient ways, but might lose oneself, at least in the common lore. How would it be used exactly? We don't really know much of the details. But there is a rumor, just a rumor, so take this with a grain of salt. We can't really promise anything because there's no confirmations. There's no reliable inside information about it. But the plot of Venom: The Last Dance might entangle itself with Spider-Man 4, which kind of doesn't make any sense. Because, you're trying to send like a good goodbye to, the Venom's, Tom Hardy's Venom and Eddie Brock. Something that, that really works well on its own, especially a trilogy of movies. And then you're having it entangled with Spider-Man. I was like, all right, now we're going to finish this here. I was like, why not finish here in your own movie? Like, really? And then we're having Spider-Man to pick up after the Venom problem, which, I don't know, like, if they're not doing a crossover and this is their way of doing a crossover, it's pretty damn messy. And I can't really say it's a good idea, too. So, but that's the rumor I'm hearing about, so I'm really hoping it's not true and they do something actually pretty creative, despite Marvel Studios trying to, have their own idea prevail as the groundwork for Spider-Man 4. I'm expecting Marvel Studios to do something pretty dang creative, at least with the symbiote and Peter Parker's new life for Spider-Man 4, especially with the different sort of direction with Destin Daniel Cretton instead of John Watts, who walked away from Fantastic Four because he says he wants to break from superhero movies. I really get that, and you can only do so much before you get tired, and I can tell Tom Holland's pretty worn out being Spider-Man, and he wants to do other stuff as well. And I really get that. So you really have to make this movie count. And if Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire are coming back, you got to make it count for them too. You can't really let the last one be in vain. Hey, at least we got like the good tag of, like, oh, we should do this again sometime, Like, maybe I'm expecting that, but more like an Avengers Secret Wars thing. If all comes to pass and all is good, like by the end of it, and then yeah, I suppose I'll let it slide. But you can't let this movie be in vain, especially when Sony is now the primary holder of Spider-Man a little more as of recent news. Oh, and there's also the rumor that with the multiverse stuff, it might take place between Avengers Doomsday and Avengers Secret Wars. For those who have read the Secret Wars comics, both iterations of Secret Wars and Secret Wars 2, and I won't spoil too much for those who might expect different sorts of stuff for the movie incarnations. But there is at one point where something might be irreversible damage, or somewhat, or may pay homage to the original origins of the symbiote, where it was given to Peter for helping out, with the Secret War stuff, and that took on a life of its own. And we'll see if there's like any inspirations to use those sorts of material in order to adapt into something more meaningful, something big, something that gives like an oomph, for doubters like I, or people who are very concerned that it might turn out that, it might flop and shouldn't have done a fourth Spider-Man movie after all, if it resulted in such. Well, hopefully, all is well at the end. Hey, this sort of stuff makes me feel more of something than the Minecraft trailer has done. At least Sony has that advantage. Well, that's my take on the sort of situation for Spider-Man 4 with Destin Daniel Cretton. Yes, I finally nailed the name. It took one whole podcast through. I'm very glad for myself. Pat myself on the back there. Anyway, this is where I ask you guys, what are you expecting from Spider-Man 4? Since we're going multiversal again, this guy's directing instead of John Watts. So, and who are you expecting to return? Like MJ, Zendaya, or I don't even think Ned Leeds is going to come back on this one. Might not even get a call or something to reprise his role, Jacob Batalon. Or, yeah, anything goes on this one. What do you guys think is going to happen, or what would you like to see happen? I personally want to see Black Cat and some sort of way, at least have like some sort of shared way of being like, have the street level life. Oh, they should have compromised Sony and Marvel, some ways where it's like street level stuff. And then at some point, multiversal entanglements happen once again, since, that's a multiverse saga, of course. And Sony's obsessed with multiverses. And maybe we could have Charlie Cox's Daredevil in there. It might not happen, but hopefully it makes sense in there. Him and Spidey kicking ass together. Spidey comes to Matt Murdock for help, and he knows who he is, tries to convince him, and make sure everything's okay. This really would have been better if Marvel Studios got the thing. Anyway, at least one thing I really want for sure is Black Cat in there, and people are really suggesting that Sydney Sweeney should be in there. I got no arguments there. I'm actually all for it. And whether you think she's a talented actress or not, if she can nail the role of Black Cat, if she can really make Spidey, sway from this thought to that thought, from this emotion to that emotion, like a very intense roller coaster, and where it really influences his way of thinking into deciding this factor, or how he chooses to proceed with this sort of philosophy or this principle, where it really conflicts with great power comes great responsibility, and how he helps the others, and how this sort of decision really makes waves for this multiverse entanglement, like just by subtle but surely sort of thing. I'm all for it. Although it would be great redemption for Sydney Sweeney to play Black Cat and pretend Madam Web didn't happen. And I remember hearing the story where she got a call from, she was going to be in the Marvel movie, but she didn't know which sort of Marvel she was going for. She ended up going for Madam Web instead of Marvel Studios. I was like, oh. I'm stroking my forehead right here with my thumb on my cheek. I was like, oh dear. And then not again. But then again, people have played different characters from Sony's movies and played their own parts with Marvel Studios movies, like Chiwetel Ejiofor, what's his name? The dude who played Eddie Brock's boss in the first movie, and then he fired him. He also played Bobby Fish and Luke Cage in the TV show. Yeah, we've had plenty of goes here and there, so we just easily ignore Madam Web. Although it depends if Sony wants her back on this one. Alright, we're going to take a break here, and when we come back, we're going to be discussing 2 different trailers. The Wallace and Gromit trailer for Netflix, and Venom, The Last Dance trailer. Your adhesiveness for sticking around is appreciated. I have never thought I'd live to see the day to see another Wallace and Gromit adventure for everyone to enjoy. I grew up loving Wallace and Gromit. I was introduced as a kid. I think it was like Cartoon Network. I'm not really sure. But some way, somehow, however I got into Wallace and Gromit, I loved, seeking to watch and to get involved with, whatever shticks they had going on, the latest inventions, the latest careers they've had throughout the years. It was always so interesting and fascinating, and I guess that's one of the reasons why I really grew very fond of claymation, and I really hope that people see it as beyond like something that's more appealing to kids of some sort. It may have been appealing to kids, but it's definitely enjoyed for a lot of people. Even Wes Anderson did some of that with Fantastic Mr. Fox or Isle of Dogs, and even Aardman is still revolutionizing some stuff here and there. Hell, they even had some video games for Flushed Away and Chicken Run, I believe, and as well as Wallace and Gromit. Yeah. So, they released a new teaser for Wallace and Gromit. Ready for the title? Vengeance Most Fowl. And I don't mean Foul. Let's see. For homophones, what other fowl could we be referring to? Of course, if we know the lore for Wallace and Gromit, you probably know which character might be returning some point soon. We'll get more into that. I adored Aardman's progress throughout the years. They even did animation for the sake of Flushed Away, because water can't really mix well with clay that long, or you can't manipulate water as such. And they even went for a big motion picture feature for Wallace and Gromit, which is Wallace and Gromit: The Curse of the Were Rabbit. But due to a few Oscar nominations for that particular year for Best Animated Feature, sorry, Howl's Moving Castle, but Wallace and Gromit won that one. And I think hearing from like other people, Howl's Moving Castle should have won, but Wallace and Gromit, you got to give it its merits though. It really worked. It really worked. I still laugh to it to this day. I still attach myself to this nostalgia and you're just getting entertained by in general. And then the more it went on, and I started getting nervous for Aardman's current work, because there was Early Man. I was really excited for that back in like 2017. And then I eventually came to the US in 2018, I believe. Me and my sister checked it out. And although I admit it could have been better, I still really liked the movie. And then there was the recent Netflix release for the sequel, the long-awaited sequel of Chicken Run, Dawn of the Nugget. I still haven't seen that one yet as we're talking about it. But I did hear that it's kind of a letdown for a sequel, but I hope I at least enjoy it or still be entertained. And you have like recasting, like instead of Julia Swalla as Ginger and Mel Gibson as Rocky, you got Zachary Levi as Rocky, of course. And you also have, oh man, what's her name? She was that.
It's Thandie Newton.
I think, replacing Julia Swallow as Ginger. So I didn't mind those ones. Zachary Levi, I feel like he had the child more suited for like the modern day Rocky voice actor. Although, with like this mild to mixed success of the recent Aardman projects, it got me a little nervous for Wallace and Gromit because they did plan this movie and a few other Aardman projects. I think it's more Wallace and Gromit movies down the line. But we are already here now. It's been made, and I can't wait for this one. So I pulled up the teaser right here, and I'm checking it out. And, we got, this weird, I wonder what sort of career they're taking because, they've done, I think they've done gardening and, animal control, and they've also done pest control as well. They even they even went to the moon at some point. That was their first grand adventure out. And what sort of curriculums are we going to see now since we have a high-tech gnome who claims himself to be a Nobot? And Gromit's just like, oh, well, what is this freakish thing? But he's taking it in. And then when I heard Wallace's voice, because Peter Sallis passed away like somewhere around like the late 2010s, left me pretty sad, especially like with his health condition and maybe very suffering. He was 90 after all, but may you rest in peace. And he did pretty dang well as Wallace. Oh man, it's just hard to replicate. It was like, how are they gonna go about with Wallace? And because that's always like the tough thing for returning voice actors to come back to play like a role that still has their name to it, unless something happens, like maybe a cause, like maybe death, or they're retired for good, where they have to bring back another voice actor. Like sort of like the same scenarios I see as like for Chris Ayers, who sadly passed away. He voiced Frieza from Dragon Ball Z Kai, the remastered version of Dragon Ball Z, filler free, all the way to like the current movies of Dragon Ball Z, Dragon Ball Super. Before there will be any English dub for the Return of Dragon Ball Super, which goes into like the Moro arc or whatever. And it says that, and online it says that his assistant, who does a pretty dang good impression, sort of very similar voice to Chris Ayers' portrayal of Frieza, will be picking up the voice for Frieza like from this point forward. And I trust him with that one. And another example is Kirby Morrow, who voiced Cyclops for X-Men Apocalypse, and most famously for what's his name, Moroku. There we go, for Inuyasha. And he did come back along with everybody else from the final act for Inuyasha. Excuse me. And eventually he did pass away, as he only voiced like 2 or 3 episodes, and that's where that's where he passed, and they had to find another voice actor. He did pretty good. I don't know who he was, but he did pretty good, fulfilling, carrying on the legacy of Moroku, as well as getting like the general traits of the character down, especially where he's at, and during the arc of Yashahime. which is where everybody came back. I should have mentioned, and it still left me pretty satisfied. So, how will Wallace be? Because actors can be replaced, set like for better or for worse, but Wallace is an interesting case scenario. How can you replicate that? How do you put your own spin to that? And when I heard his voice, it's like Peter Sallis all over again. I'm like, this guy's pretty dang good. I did have the name here. Ben Whitehead. There we go. Ben Whitehead is the new voice actor for Peter Sallis, replacing Peter Sallis for Wallace. And that just got me very excited. It just felt super nostalgic. It hit me right in the feels like a slap across the face for somebody who got mistaken for accidentally bumping into someone in a crowd or something. And it's like, wow. This tingly sensation. Ooh, what do I do? And it just left me, vibrant. I feel like, I don't know, it got me really excited. And then you see, Gromit interacting with Nobots, and you see Wallace like, "Go on, chump. Let's see you do this and that." The whole Wallace mannerisms. I don't know what to say, but I do like the Wallace sort of shtick. It makes him sound toothy and very optimistic, and he could like take anything. And he's so inspired to bring all about the stuff here and there, as well as his pal Gromit. He's the one friend you can rely on, man's best friend, to a whole nother level in the UK, and it's so impressive. So what are they going to be dealing this time around? Well, there's that, but there's also another returning character I did mention earlier. A fiendish perp who goes by the name of Feather McGraw. For those people who didn't know what happened in the past with Feather McGraw and our leading characters, Feather McGraw tried to play. He's basically the femme fatale, except it's a guy for a penguin. For lack of a better word, I'm not gonna say flightless bird, but this dude flies in high colors and crime. And he's that good. He really tested the relationship between Wallace and Gromit and put their lives through a living hell for a day or two, maybe even a week. I don't remember. It's been a real long while. But I love that tease where I got to give him props to how it's presented with the titles and such. It reminds me of DVD trailers for movies back in the days where we used to rent from Blockbuster. That was a tough one. And you got like all these distributive companies helping this and that, and you got like these unique trailers only you could see for DVDs. You would be even lucky to find them on the internet. And that's sort of the reminiscing feeling I had from those. And it also felt like you're trying to promote a movie you're trying to get people to watch and check out in the 1980s. So I sort of had that sort of some feeling there. And I love how for somebody who's watching the trailer for the first time and doesn't know the title, Wallace and Gromit, I already forgot the name. What was it? Vengeance Most Fouled. You got somebody who's dropping all sorts of items, in the usual police station. You're seeing all these items drop in a tray, and then you see this a red rubber glove. And then you hear like this very dark, I don't want to say sinister, but like very antagonizing sort of feel of music when you see the character once again, cracking its neck as it's ready for action for what lies next for Feather McGraw and what lies next for Wallace and Gromit. And then it brings back the title Wallace and Gromit, Vengeance Most Fouled. And that got me really excited there. I just hope this movie really does rock the original core from Aardman, because I kind of miss those days. I consider early Man a pass. I've yet to see Chicken Run, but I really hope I enjoy it. I don't know if I'm going to give it a pass or a recommendation, or if it's going to tarnish the original. I mean, the original is already good on its own, so you really don't need to rely on a sequel. But, the sequel's out there. I intend to check it out at some point. I really hope this one gets me the good feels of, a good classic, but also modern Wallace and Gromit adventure. However, will it be the more grander scale of adventure out there when we're talking about Venom the Last Stand? So I checked out the trailer for Venom the Last Dance on Thursday, and it makes me want to miss the journeys that me, Eddie Brock, and Venom had together. Well, not together, but like me and like other people as well. Because it reminds me of the time when they announced the movie and it was going to be without Spider-Man, which I was personally okay with. Except people are like, "Oh, you can't do it without Spider-Man because it only belongs to this and this and that." And it was like, but then there's the Ultimate Comics, and you have to have Peter and George and their dads, Peter and Eddie's dads doing this, and just think of it as an alien invasion movie, and that's all I'm asking for on this one. And I think it personally worked, and that was also one of the first few things I ever covered when starting getting into like podcasting. Really, is the We Are Venom movement in Brazil Comic-Con sort of, and they even handed out like these T-shirts. I even sort of bought a like a knockoff T-shirt of that sort, except it didn't fit me, so I handed it off to my sister, and that really got me reminiscing like of all the good times I had and my own experience for Venom fandom, as well as the journeys that Eddie Brock and Venom had together from the first movie to when they couldn't, they wanted, they had their own motives, but they soon learned how to coalesce with each other. And then it was like an old married couple in the second one. And it kind of made things a little more interesting when, like a serial murder, Cletus Cassidy on the loose, along with one of the most dangerous symbiotes in the Spider-Man comics lore, Carnage. And yeah, that kind of made things very worrisome as to how how are they going to beat this guy, especially when we see all the symbiotes could do in this version of film, in the version of film for the Venom lore. It makes you think of the possibilities. What could really go wrong next, or what's really next for these guys? Because, Eddie is such a reckless reporter. It's got him into trouble. That's why they're even in Mexico and on the run, because, him being hunted down for withdrawing information that should really be discussed for discovering those murders and how did he do it. And, him and Venom biting heads off, although he can't really say he has an alien symbiote with him. And only few people know about it, and that makes things very worrisome, and we got to worry about this serial murder on the loose. And also, in the first movie, you got like a very narcissistic, dangerous scientist of Carlton Drake, and, and I think it's very interesting, at least you got the basics for Eddie Brock, where, this guy really doesn't take responsibility for himself, and eventually he does, and he learns how to move on, but that isn't without other hardships as well, because with Anne Wang, and that just makes it very tough, because Venom grew very affectionate towards her, and he wants her and Eddie to get together, despite the fact that she is about to marry another great guy named Dan, who's I think is pretty cool, and they have to go their separate ways, and now dangerous stuff assumes. Oh yeah, and then I like how for the plot for Venom the Last Dance derives from, it's basically what we've been saying before, or what they've been saying before, not me, where, they said like, this world is about to die. It's like basically a generation from, corruption and, the non-existence of human beings. So Carl the Drake took it upon himself to try and, find ways to extend the human environments for around the world. Otherwise, we're all pretty much screwed. He's like the Elon Musk, as people would like to put it. but his methods are very not just unorthodox, but super dangerous and threatening. And he was so persistent on making it happen that he's willing to kill people. He's willing to people use people as bait, become a liar, and all sorts of crappy stuff. And eventually, we got Venom and his Venom. Sorry, I couldn't help myself. I always think about that whenever I hear Venom in that sort of tone. Ain't gonna what hit him. I had my fun there. The symbiotes are finding us. They're actually looking for a life to consume on because that's sort of the thing they do. And they found planet Earth. They were actually heading there in the first place, and they just coincidentally have to happen on the spaceship, and that's where Venom actually starts his journey. Eventually makes his way to Eddie Brock, but also the group of symbiotes that came along with it, with Riot fusing with Carl's Dragon. They have this epic battle on the spaceship port, and we got the ongoing adventures after that for Let There Be Carnage. And now it's coming back to bite them in the booty because they actually found Earth. Maybe they're informed. I don't even know how they know that Earth is like very consumable, but the symbiotes are coming, and there's not much of stopping it. The only hope left is Venom and Eddie. But how do you stop something that's so global? And at the same time, how do you protect something that's so internal? Eddie and Venom's relationship, Eddie protecting Mrs. Chen, who is a pretty dang good character. And I really love seeing her around, and she's in a casino. Like, Mrs. Chen, what are you doing here? And, they have like a little load of dance bouts, all good friendships, and it's just lovely to see. And that's why it's going to be really sad to see this as basically the final film, The Last Dance. They said they weren't going to do any more Venom films. And coming from Sony, that's kind of unlike Sony on that one. But yeah, I mean, how can you top this one? Then this is also because the first one was directed by Ruben Fleischer. The second one was directed by Andy Serkis. They had their own takes on it, and I think Andy Serkis had better direction. But Ruben Fleischer helped pave the way of Venom. What to expect from a Venom movie of this sort. Without Spider-Man, making an alien invasion. And you also, and for the third movie, you have the writer for the first one and the second one. She's making her directorial debut for Venom: The Last Dance. And her name goes by the name of Kylie Marcel. And I want to see what she does with it. And you could tell she's going to make the most fun out of it, but also make the most meaningful and make it the most epic. It's kind of like, those sorts of traits. It kind of reminds me of the Incredible Hulk, where like you want fun, you want epicness, you want meaningfulness, and you want to see stakes at hand, and you want to see all these different sorts of scenarios of what more can these characters really be tested on as they're trying to protect something and also get rid of this and that, like so many commonalities there. But I'm not going to get into that now. Well, let's talk more about the trailer. So, you got Venom and Eddie on a plane. Who knows? I bet it's going to be one of those. I don't think they will pull this trigger, but it reminds me of those like, yep, it's me. I bet you're wondering how I got here. Well, let's start from the top, and you recap the whole story from there, and then you bring it back home. I mean, the last one who really did that, like with Gravitas, is Sonic the Hedgehog, where he was like running around the town. Anyway, so they're on the airplane, and I like that one shot where he's like, Venom is like attempting to look over the windows because some lady was kind of leering over, seeing what the hell is going on, and then reverts back to the lady, and then the next shot he like winks at her. I'm also gonna miss that sort of unique humor from the Venom movies. Sometimes it could be a bit juvenile, mostly from the first one, but I really enjoyed it. It gives me a chuckle. That's what I mean. What more can you ask for? Of course, like it's not gonna be taken as seriously, but you still want it to be dang cool. But we're just here to have fun, you know. And then wow, you see one of these weird symbiote creatures. It doesn't even look like a symbiote creature, but it looks like something different. It looked like those monsters from a Quiet Place franchise. They get fused with the symbiotes sort of concept. If somebody were to try, drawing a concept art of such, and now they're just here trying to take down whatever is in front of them, take destruction, carnivorous creatures trying to replenish themselves, wreaking havoc on a helpless planet that's like a generation away from doomsday. And then Venom soon elaborates the situation like, "Hey, my home has found us." And you see like all these asteroids and comets heading towards Earth, and people are concerned, from homes and cities. And he starts elaborating on the situation like my owner has found us, our creator. It was like, no. Like, who is this creator? Like, no. Like, no. Shh. Because Null is a pretty dangerous character in the comics. If you read at least like one or two sorts of facts about Null, and that kind of scary to see on screen and what he could do to our beloved characters. Oh. And it was also revealed, like, at some point before this podcast, I read that Norman Reedus is going to be playing Null. And you see his long Sephiroth silver-haired, like, locks of, going over his head with, like, a super sharp clawed hand ready to strike. You're seeing the silhouette of this monster that nobody is ready for, or I assume nobody is ready for. Hell, I don't think even Carnage, being one of the most dangerous ones, would ever be ready for this sort of guy, considering he was just born from Venom. Excuse me. Born from Venom, no much or if any knowledge of, the creator of the symbiotes. And we're finally going to get a glimpse into the symbiote world, because they drop mentions here and there from the first one. Of course, show don't tell, that kind of makes it less impactful, but hopefully most of the people believe in them. I believed what Venom was saying when he was given the synopsis of the situation. And now we get a glimpse of it. It's dark, it's brooding, it's gooey, it's so nasty to even tread upon, even with like the cool cinematography you got going on. And then at some point during the trailer, you see that one detective dude from the second movie. I really liked him, and the actor did such a great job, for this sort of character. He's really trying to get down to the bone of why Eddie is solving all these issues. Why isn't he going to the cops, and why isn't he responding about like all these monsters and sites, all these things. And he's a cop, but not only that, he's also responsible for shooting Cletus Cassidy's girlfriend in the eye, and he's been marked for death from them as well, and that made for an interesting plot for Venom Let There Be Carnage. And he soon met his end. Well, his end in quotations, and then somehow I assumed he was dead, and then his eyes glowed like out of nowhere, and he says, "Monsters." I was like, what? And then like I started going on Wikipedia or on the internet. I was like, what could this be referring to? What did they have planned? Do they have anything interesting that they're trying to do, or is it just a reference and then he's forgotten? And how the heck does he live? I thought he was impaled. Anyway. And then you see like a zoom in shot of him being in containment, and you could tell he's kind of innocent, but not that innocent as to where he doesn't have anything infected, because we saw the last movie. What the heck does he have? And then we see the next shot after like the Stephen Merchant and containment stuff, and then you see Venom and Eddie whacking this one guy in Vegas, and he's just like slides across the pavement. And Eddie, with like careful footsteps, you could tell, he really wasn't comfortable with such like, why do you keep doing things like that? Oh man. And I'm pretty excited for like the humor as well. Like, not that I'm here for, like, this is the funniest thing ever. But I always love that humor that each director had, for their own take of it. And, this one coming from the director, uh uh and this one coming from the writer, who is now directing this one, the one behind the jokes from the other ones, but each of the directors have their own unique way of delivering the joke. And I'm kind of excited to see this one. This one looks pretty promising. For jokes, of course. And you see a dapper Eddie Brock, and it says, this October. They're just chilling, and then you see like a montage of Eddie and Venom's times together, and they're trying to do their best to survive through the water, through whatever sorts of mountains they're going in. And then you see these creatures coming out of the water as they're trying to fuse together, and they're trying to find them off. I don't even know what the monsters are really doing there. Where are they? Like, what if there's danger from the other side of the world and they can't really get to it, and it's just too late for them at that matter, because they're the world's best hope technically. And then the doctor is trying to let Eddie know, like, hey, this isn't healthy for you. And then Eddie was like, but I need him. And then, they start kicking ass together, and they see, and then we see the horse fusing, and then we see the horse bonding with Venom. And that was one of the cool shots from one of the other trailers that just makes it very promising to check out this one. And oh man, it's so exciting. And then you hear Eddie was like, we're bad people. And then Venom was like, yeah, we are. Those two couldn't have been more of a great team. And I loved that even for a mid-credit scene for Spider-Man No Way Home, like, we know who these characters are. We have this unique dynamic between the audience and Eddie and Venom. And, we see all these, we see where they're coming from, when he starts asking, about MCU events that he has no awareness of. And they start asking about Hulk, goes like this giant green rage monster dude. And the bartender was like, Hulk. Yeah, you thought Lethal Protector was a crappy name. Yeah, because it is. And, you see their bouts of like, well, see, sir, these aliens, I don't think that's what aliens do. Aliens for me, they eat brains. And then he starts like having this super rant. And then Venom's like, Eddie, don't start. Yeah, I'm gonna miss them. And then we see a shot of Reese Ifans as a hippie, and Eddie and Venom are traveling together. I'm guessing that they're fighting in the canyons, and they eventually find their way towards the road, and they have to hitch a ride somewhere, or maybe the horse doesn't survive long enough for Venom to help Eddie keep riding on them and find the nearest town or civilization to get assistance from, and they get like a hippie one. And we meet Reese Ifans. That's what I'm suggesting might be the case there. And people keep saying that Reese Ifans, like, oh, is he going to play the lizard in this one? It's like, oh, I don't think so. Because the accent is different. The look is different. You get a different mood from this sort of character. And he's trying to lecture you. And it's not really much of a Dr. Connors thing. And if it were Dr. Connors, he would have one arm anyway. And then you see Eddie and Venom going on survival mode, trying to evade the monsters, trying to take down the monsters, getting zapped by whatever it is it might be, and water, which could really hurt there. And then, you get like the slow moment, and then you hear Venom say, Eddie, I'm with you all the way, or something like that. And it just makes you feel, man, these two really are a tag team of the century. And then you get Venom, The Last Dance. And then you see him in the casino, and Venom can't help himself because, he's sort of new to this stuff. And he starts to feel the first 3 stages of gambling addiction. And he's forcing Eddie to, use up all the money that they have, and he's controlling his limbs. And I'm going to miss that sort of shtick. There we go. And physical comedy of the Venom movies. And then we get October 25th. Yes, I'm excited for that one. And then the trailer ends there, and that makes me feel I'm sold to watch this one. Maybe I should bring a hanky with me just so I can wipe away those manly tears. Yeah. Well, let's not tread into emotional territory. I guess that's all the thoughts that we've covered so far that I can explain from myself for Spider-Man 4, a Minecraft movie, Wallace and Gromit, and Venom, The Last Dance trailer. Thank you guys for sticking around with me for so long on listening to this podcast today. I am very thankful, and I hope you can help support me on whatever platform this may be released on, whether it be Podbean or on YouTube, or hey, maybe I might save this one for something else for a new platform or somewhat. So do what you have to do. I could really use that support, and I'm not going to let you guys go away empty-handed. If you guys ever have a niche for trying out podcasting, I do have something for you. I've got a link that can take you to try out podcasting. However, you might want to experiment it, whether you're new or you want to test out the platform a bit. I've got a link for you for www.podbean.com/moviepublish. It'll take you to the website there, and then you can select a plan, a free basic plan. It'll only take you with so much storage on that one, but let's see what you can do with that sort of storage. See what you can talk about, and maybe it can help you with some creative plans, or if you intend doing a podcast, you could try your free trial there, and hopefully you can enjoy podcasting with the community, really. So just to re-say, www.podbean.com/moviepublish. And if whatever I said seemed to pique your interest into really getting your mind thought-provoked, and if you really want to dive more into, I also have my own website that I sort of do blogs and do a little analysis of here and there. My best work would be, trying to decipher who might be reprising for Spider-Man No Way Home, as what we mentioned a lot here in this podcast today, and who's coming back, who isn't, who is most likely to come back, who is nah, he's not coming back, or she's not going to be in there as well. I call it the Upbringing Spider-Mania Chronicles. That only worked before Spider-Man No Way Home, and then I just left my bag of knowledge before the movie started, and then I just enjoyed the movie. And that website to check that out is www.themoviepublisher.wordpress.com. I haven't really updated or did anything with it for a while, but I really hope you guys check it out and you guys enjoy what you might have to explore in that one. So I'm hoping you get a good thought-provoking process in that. Try free. That's really all there is to it. And I'll reiterate this again. Thank you. And hopefully you guys have a good one. Take care. Adios. And may God bless.